We're going to be looking at speed training. Why? Because speed training is the type of training you do to make yourself go faster. We're going to be looking at the principles of speed training versus endurance training and how you put sessions together. And in regards to that, we look at the repetitions and the recovery between each sets and reps. Why does speed training work? Look at three main reasons. One is that it's an increase in the number of signals being sent to the muscle. Every time your muscles want to work, your brain sends a signal. If you do some fast, hard exercise, the strength of that signal increases hugely. And therefore, over time, that signal rate will go through much quicker. More muscles will fire, and you'll be able to go quicker. Second is physiological. Increased muscle strength, being able to process energy, being able to remove wasteful products that come from working really hard. Third main reason, psychological. Your confidence to be able to cope with running hard, your self-belief that you can actually cope with these difficult situations, all underpin the ability to be able to run quickly and to be able to run quickly for long periods of time. Okay, let's get a bit of an idea how the speed and endurance principles work in practice. Let's look at a session using 1K reps, which is commonly used for people preparing for all sorts of distances, from 5K to a marathon. And for example, we'll say someone wants to do a 5K in sub 18 minutes. Well, to be able to do that, you've got to be able to run each 1K in sub 3:35. So let's just break our session down to 5 times 1K. So the aim clearly is to be able to run each 1 kilometer in sub 3:35, because that's going to help condition you to be able to achieve your goal. Recovery, well, that's the variable which we're going to change, in that it's got to be long enough so that the running time is maintained. You've got to be able to keep the sub 3:35 going. If you can't keep that going, it might be that the goal is far too ambitious to begin with, but let's assume it's a realistic one that you could attain and you can actually do that time at least once. Then is to increase the length of recovery. It's that your recovery fitness is not strong enough, it's not good enough, and so you just lengthen the recovery. The other way of doing that is that your endurance to be able to cope with running that speed for that distance might not be good enough. So the other option may be to shorten the rep, with the idea that you keep the speed up the same, and it's that your speed is deteriorating during the rep. So in other words, you might do 5 times 800, or 5 times 600, or 7 times 600, and so on. You play around it that time, but the idea is that the speed part is always prioritized over the recovery part, which is always the bit which is lengthened in order to make the performance maintain. So let's just flip that the other way around. Let's say endurance is the emphasis of the training session, same goal, same speed, so you can still do them in 3:35, but endurance becomes the focus. Well, in this training session, the focus is then on the amount of time it takes to recover. So the idea is that he still does each rep in 3:35, doesn't try to get any quicker, but tries to reduce the amount of time taken for recovery. So that might go from 2 minutes for one repetition, and then reduce it the next time to 1 minute or 90 seconds. But the goal there is to reduce the recovery time, which in other words, he's saying I've recovered enough and I can almost bridge that gap and do this as a continuous run. A lot of the changes you're going to make are going to be psychological. You're going to have to get yourself used to running a lot quicker, and you have to get yourself confidence that you can maintain this new speed that you're trying to push yourself to achieve. So let's look at some ways of doing that. One is to develop positive self-statements that you can cope with the sensations of fatigue when they build up. So the idea that you've got these techniques in place, that you're going to be confident that you can cope with these sensations when they build up, and they're not something unexpected that catch you out by surprise that you're not prepared for. You're expecting them to come. When they come, they are an indication that you're working really hard. They're partly welcomed, but they will be partly welcomed because they show that you're working hard. But over time, of course, you'll realize that you'll be able to run faster before they start to build up. So they are a useful indication of how hard you're working. And to sort of help you cope with the session, one technique is to get a really clear idea in your mind what good technique is all about, so that you sort of talk yourself through what the sort of aspects of fast running will be like from a sort of verbal sense. So keeping your back straight, nice relaxed arms, fast turnover of legs, nice getting to a good rhythm. Those sorts of points, which are all well and good when you are standing before the start when everything's calm, but don't really come into mind when you're really gunning it down the final 200 meters or so of a repetition, where physiological sensations tend to take over. So what we try to do for that is prepare for that one too. And one technique to try and distract yourself from the sensations of fatigue and also build in efficient technique is to have an image of something associated with efficient performance. And what we've got running down below is an image of some fast moving feet, and sort of holding that image of someone running along really fast can be a reasonable way of um, sort of getting yourself into a rhythm, synchronizing your mind into thinking that everything is turning over one step at a time, nice and relaxed, and in, really engaging yourself in that process. Or it might be an image of your own choice, another sort of continual flowing motion, so that it actually aids your performance, and you imagine the thing in your head rotating your legs for you, and it propels you along. Okay, relatively simple stuff you've probably heard before. As always, the best way to try and bed this is to start putting it into your training, and something we'll be doing frequently. Any of the further information will be always available in the descriptions in the YouTube video below. So it's all for free, so you can always access it if you want.